Kickoff is from young scrum half Donnacha O'Callaghan, drops it towards the 22 on the UCC side, and young Munsters return that possession, and they're going to start on the attacking foot immediately into centre and straight at that UCC line. UCC scrambling out to the left hand side to try to cover, and young Munsters flipping back into the inside, and it's Fitzgerald who's coming off his wing, taking it into traffic. Young Munsters recycle, a little bit slow coming back, but it eventually gets to Rigney. Rigney pops it off to Bartley. Bartley straight at his opposite number and making some yards. Young Munsters recycling ball well and carrying well straight at the UCC line. It's slow coming back again. UCC doing very well to ruck against young Munsters. They're about halfway between the 10 and the 22 inside in UCC's half and heading towards that 22. Back into midfield. Cusack popping it into centre for Harrington, and it's gone all the way out onto the wing. And a lovely step back inside into traffic again. UCC scrambling well to defend against young Munsters, going back and forth but not making many yards, and eventually Kennedy gets his hands on it, breaks through and into the 22, bursting through tackles, and about 10 metres short of the line, a rampaging one from Kennedy. O'Callaghan spinning it outside into the centre, and young Munsters are going to score here. They've gone over the line, a try on the opposite side. What a superb try from young Munsters, starting with a huge break from Alan Kennedy and ending up in a score over on the far side of the pitch on the right hand side. Cracking score, and after a couple of phases of left and right and no yards, Alan Kennedy makes the difference and young Munsters score in the corner. Only mere minutes into this game, and it looks as though that one has come off the post and gone inside, but the linesmen don't flag it. They say it's hit the post and gone outside, so no conversion. Very, very close for young Cusack. This is hopefully for them not portents of a long day, but for young Munsters they'll be pleased. UCC kick off and into the hands of Donnacha O'Callaghan, who returns the kick to the halfway line, right out on the touch, well taken on the wing, and UCC step back into contact, heading over into the young Munsters half, and the referee pings against young Munsters for going off their feet at the breakdown. UCC take it quickly. They're looking to break out and looking to slice through the young Munsters half, and they have done, and that's knock on after a big carry in midfield. It's knocked on, and that is very, very unfortunate for UCC. Jack Kelleher.
Yeah, well, UCC certainly showing what they're made of there. Dan, a quick tap from Louis Can at 9, and Taylor, we flagged early, is a very, very talented player making a line break, and if that ball does go to hand, it looks like it's a 2-on-1, so our UCC will be very disappointed with that, but signs of what they can do there.
Big scrum from both sides, pushing and shoving. Eventually it comes out. O'Callaghan takes it and he hands it off to it's out to Fitzgerald, and just stepping into touch. Turnover of possession 2 times from both sides. Into the middle it goes. Kennedy gets his hands on it and manages to spoil it. It's knocked down by Bartley on the ground, and UCC look to have turned it over, and in fact, yes, that was the interception from Kennedy, was knocked forward.
It'll be interesting to see what the referee makes of it, but certainly the first scrum would not have went as young Munsters wanted it to go.
Louis Can will put into the scrum for UCC around that 10 metre line, about 20 metres in from the touchline, and Can picks it at the back and heads into midfield. UCC recycling and popping back on the inside channel to attack young Munsters 12. Into midfield still, they recycle possession. Big carry, but young Munsters doubling up on the tacklers and really going at that UCC attacking drive. Have they turned it over? Young Munsters have turned it over, ripped in midfield and taken back out, and that was John Foley with some serious work to rip that ball. So young Munsters have turned it over, and O'Callaghan into Cusack. Cusack puts his boot through it, and it's going to dribble all the way towards the touchline inside the UCC 22. That one doesn't quite make touch. A super kick, and eventually collected and boot to ball. It's number 15, Rob Hederman, who puts it into touch, and young Munsters out of nowhere. A lovely kick through from Cusack. So the put in to the line out. Hennessy goes to John Foley at the back, and young Munsters set up a maul, but UCC don't contest, which means young Munsters have to play. So onto the ground it goes just outside the UCC 22. Kennedy with another big carry. 2 men have to stop him, and they don't hold him. Now there's 3 of them trying to stop him. Kennedy rampaging again. O'Callaghan dummies one, and into midfield it goes. Fleming looking to carry. Into traffic he goes. O'Callaghan's there again. Young Munster spinning it all the way out wide. A lovely little grubber kick through. This is going to be another score for young Munsters. The lovely grubber kick through was chased all the way through, and a lovely touchdown. It looks like it was Jack Harrington who touches it down on the far side. A superb try for young Munsters. Their second in the space of only 10 minutes, or less than 10 minutes even. A superb try. Once again, Cusack instrumental in that. Cusack lines up the conversion. This one goes straight through the post. It was from all the way out on the far side. That's a superb kick. And so with 8.5 minutes gone in this game, the score now is young Munsters 12, UCC 0. The darts from Aaron Hennessy for that line out was excellent.
Yeah. UCC have had very little of the ball then, so they're going to need to get their hands on to get a foothold in the game.
James Taylor kicks off into Young Munster's half. Young Munster's collect around the 10-metre line inside their own half and set up a maul in midfield, looking to really charge at that UCC line and make UCC commit defenders. Eventually the ball goes to ground. O'Callaghan into midfield. And it's a lovely, again, Cusack goes out to the outside receiver and kicks a ball in behind the UCC defence, forcing Hederman to return and take this from inside his own 22. He looks to counter. Big tackle in midfielder for in the centre of the park from John Foley, just still inside the UCC 22. Can at the back, spins it back towards Taylor. Taylor puts his boot on it and it's a really ugly looking kick, bounces awkwardly, and eventually Harrington gets his hands on it. Harrington looking for the offload on the outside channel and just doesn't pull it off. O'Callaghan into John Foley, another big shift out of him. Foley carrying up towards the 22. Into midfield, and it's Cusack spinning it out wide. Fitzgerald is off his wing and the ball thrown straight at the head, I think, of Hennessy, who's had to check back. So Young Munsters take it back towards the 10-metre line. They still have possession, but they've lost about 10 yards with a very awkward looking pass. So all the way out on that far side, on the right-hand side of the pitch, and the score still 12-0 to Young Munsters. Young Munsters still in possession at the 10-metre line on the right-hand side in UCC's half. Into midfield it goes. Kennedy with another tackle. This time he stopped and it only took one man to do it. Callaghan at the back into Tynan. Tynan popping it out for O'Gorman. O'Gorman looking to step outside his man and he's just about brought down. And Munsters are looking for those line breaks. Still at the 10 inside in the UCC half. Rigney carries into traffic. And Munsters set up. It's a little bit slow again. And into midfield it goes, a huge carry. That looks like Qualter, Danny Qualter, taking 2 or 3 men to haul him down. Young Munster's now starting to make some yards. Tynan switches it back into Kennedy. Kennedy driving at that UCC line. They're exposed here if Young Munsters can get quick ball, but they can't. Very slow coming out. Eventually, they manage to recycle. So Young Munster's making yards, but it's slow yards in the middle of the park. And out to Cusack. Cusack looking for Harrington. Harrington stepping back inside. It's a lovely little offload. There are options left and right. Into Cusack. Cusack heading for the post. He's hauled down just short. Young Munster's looking to recycle and look, pick ball. Foley's at the bottom. He picks it up and pops it off. Fitzgerald, big under leg pass and eventually a sidestep out. Young Munsters are going to score into the corner. No, they're not. Just bundled into touch, a metre short of the line. And that was a huge carry and very, very unfortunate for Jack Harrington. So UCC's line out is eventually taken off the top and it's Can looking to carry out, although he seems to be exposed on the ground. Young Munsters have players over it and it is knocked or hands in the ruck from UCC. Young Munsters had players over that. It's turned over. It'll be a Young Munsters penalty. Or is it not? It was knocked on the ground, I think, and so it'll be Young Munsters scrum 5 metres out. Could have been a penalty. I thought Young Munsters were over that and contesting for that ball on the ground. A scrum 5 metres out on this left-hand side. The score still 12-0 in this Energia Community Conference match. O'Callaghan feeds, it's to the back, very stable scrum. Young Munsters looking to get a drive, it's starting to spin a little bit, and the referee says that's a penalty for UCC spinning it, and so Young Munsters very, very pleased with that shift. UCC had spun it a little bit. 14 minutes into this match, the score, Young Munsters 12, UCC 0. Young Munsters with the put in to the scrum 5 metres from the UCC line on this left-hand side in front of the clubhouse, directly in front of our commentary position. Feed goes in, scrum spins, and the referee goes under the post. It's a penalty try. An immediate decision from the referee, and very unexpected immediate call. Referee says that's a penalty try, straight under the posts. That's Young Munster's second in 2 weeks, and it makes the score 19-0. 19-0 now, and we're still under 20 minutes played in this game. Taylor kicks it off to Young Munsters, and Cusack returns the kick with some to spare. The ball bouncing awkwardly inside the 22. Hederman, the fullback for UCC, collects it on that right-hand side and puts his boot through it, but it's sliced off the outside of his boot, and it goes into touch just outside the UCC 22. They had a long afternoon last week against Highfield. Looks like it's shaping to be a long one again. Young Munsters put into the line out, and eventually it comes down off the top and into midfield. Huge run, bursting at the line, and that looked like it was O'Gorman. Into midfield, Cusack spinning it towards Tynan, and this is O'Gorman now with the carry. Harrington. So Young Munsters have it out between the 10 and the 22. And this time, Young Munsters in fringe. You may have heard the referee's whistle as Rigney carried into contact. Young Munsters players flopping over the top, I believe. And UCC with an opportunity to clear their lines, get a little bit of relief from the fairly relentless Young Munsters pressure. So we are now 16 and a half minutes into this game, and the score is Young Munsters 19, UCC 0. And so it will be the put-in from Tig McCarthy for UCC. To the middle he goes. Young Munsters don't contest off the top, and Han into Can into the middle and out towards midfield as UCC look to generate some attacking impetus. Young Munsters defending well. It's around the halfway line, and UCC carrying into Young Munsters traffic. It's ruck after ruck, and they will look to try and get some width on this now. Louis Can at the back pops it into midfield. Big carry with two UCC players going with their ball carrier, trying to get over the gain line, but stopped on it. Back towards midfield, and a lovely little dink over the top is kind of wasted possession, but they had a free play. Young Munsters were offside, so a little bit inventive. Referee blows the whistle. Offside call against Young Munsters, a penalty to UCC, and they're just inside the Young Munsters half. They went through maybe 5 phases off the line out and barely made a yard for it, but now they have an opportunity with this kick, which James Taylor will take to try and get deeper into Young Munsters territory. That kick is not great and does not find touch. Young Munsters managed to return it, and eventually the attempted kick through is charged down, and UCC running at it, and eventually it's bundled into touch, and for just a second it looked as if that was a really poor executed kick, which was charged down by the UCC players and creates an opportunity for them. They have that line out now just outside the Young Munsters 22. Or at least, sorry, from the angle here, I think they're about 5 metres out there.
Yeah, I have my glasses on, then it's 5 metres from
it's
the line.
Okay, all right. Once again, Dara Frawley points out how much younger he is than me. The throw to the tail of the line out for UCC malfunctions, and it's Kennedy who takes it for Young Munsters. Turnover ball 5 metres from their own line. And this piece of commentary brought to you by Specsavers Opticians. Long clearing kick from Tynan, bounces towards the touchline but doesn't go into touch, and Hederman looking to carry from inside his own half, stepping through 2 tackles but eventually hauled down by John Foley. Young Munsters getting bodies over the ball, and the referee says illegally so, and a penalty is given to UCC. Again, 3 penalties in the space of 2 or 3 minutes. They take it quickly and head into midfield, looking to move it towards the right hand side touchline. Young Munsters have organised and are defending very, very well. Some UCC players committing themselves very heavily to that ruck, and it looked to be illegal. Young Munsters don't look happy about it, but the referee says play on. Big carry that time round from Jack Kelleher, the 7. UCC still have it. Bohan into midfield, heading towards the right-hand side. It's a lovely little dink through, and there are runners chasing this one for UCC, looking to get on the end of it. Ball breaks loose. It's bouncing awkwardly at the edge of the Young Munsters 22. It's gathered up by UCC, all the way out on that right-hand side touchline. They're looking to turn this possession into scores. Young Munsters scrambling back to defend. It's slow coming back for UCC, but they do get it out. Bohan swinging it into midfield. UCC have numbers on the left-hand side. They step back inside, looking to head towards the Young Munsters try line. There looks like it's going to be begging. They're heading towards that and just about hauled down about 5 metres short of the line. Really good loose play out to the left-hand side. UCC committing Young Munsters defenders and carrying it towards the line, but stopped again. The referee's hand is out. It's going to be advantage to UCC. Heading towards that left-hand touchline. They're a good distance away from us now. And just recycle. It's getting slower. They had such high tempo, and now it's slowed down. They're about 10 metres in off the left-hand channel, but looking to get towards that line. They can't be far short of it now. Outside into midfield, and it's knocked on in midfield, but they have the advantage going their way, and so there will be a penalty to UCC and a yellow card issued to Young Munsters. 10 metres in from the posts, they're opting to go for the scrum and try and get at Young Munsters' pack and get the ball over the line for a score. Big scrum starts to shove, and UCC really are rumbling forward, and the referee has given another penalty try. He goes directly under the post. The very first infringement was all it took. He put the hands up, and another penalty try, this time conceded by Young Munsters at the far end of the pitch. Cusack with the kick-off, and it's knocked on by Cork, by UCC, and Young Munsters start to sling it out and head out wide. O'Gorman with the carry into traffic. He was looking for the offload, but there were UCC players scrambling, and so it's slow ball. The score now 19 points to 7. We're about 25 minutes or 26 minutes into this game. Young Munsters looking for the dink over the top. It's a lovely little dink, but the bounce is not going to go the way they want, and instead the ball is going to go dead inside the UCC, behind their UCC goal line, and they will have the 22 dropout. An attempt at a quick kick-off, and it was Louis Can dribbled it out, but UCC very lucky to return possession. They're at the edge of their 22 in midfield. Bohan spinning it out and heading towards that left-hand touchline, and UCC managing to recycle ball really, really well. The dink through has to have Young Munsters turning around and chasing a ball back. Taken back in, all the way back down inside Young Munsters 22 by Tynan. Tynan throws a fairly manky looking pass, but it's just about collected on the far side for Young Munsters, and the referee says nope. He's going to bring it back. I think that's for a forward pass from Tynan. So 19-7 still the score, heading towards the half-hour mark in this game.
UCC got on a 4-2 split here, so we'll be interested to see if they go down the blind side or open.
Who we can at the back of the UCC scrum. It's not really moving, and they go down the blind side and spinning it out towards that right-hand wing, and they're getting all the way out to the Louis Bruce, the winger, who's taking it into traffic. Young Munsters were well organised up towards the edge of the Young Munsters 22. UCC still have. It's slow coming back into midfield. UCC looking to carry and managing to smash into Young Munsters players. They're making yards, but they're not easy yards. Heading out towards this left-hand touchline now and into the hands, and it's gone back through, and it looks like a forward pass this time around. UCC really had just Matthew Bowen had managed to step in and offload really well, but the offload was forward and the try line was begging. Evan O'Gorman, not exactly a small man. Big ball carrying centre with a cracking game last week against Cork. And this time Young Munsters do get the penalty. The shove comes on from both sides, and the front rows for Young Munsters congratulate each other at the edge of their own 22 for managing to get that. It looked like it was coming the first time round, and this time the referee doesn't hesitate, blows in favour of Young Munsters, and now an opportunity to clear their lines, and that it will be a bit of a tonic after several minutes of pressure from UCC. Cusack puts his boot through it and takes us up towards the halfway line. Not quite at the halfway line. The line out. Off the top from Rigney. But Young Munster's not getting the kind of possession they wanted, and so it goes to ground. Slow ball coming back. Just inside their own half, Young Munsters. 30 metres or so. In midfield, roughly, Alan Kennedy carrying. Again, 3 players required to haul Kennedy onto the ground. Young Munsters will want quicker ball than they've had, but they do manage to shuffle it out, and eventually the kick from Tynan is going to pin Hederman back at the edge of his own 22. It bounces awkwardly for him. There aren't enough Young Munsters players chasing up, so Hederman has the opportunity to carry out. Eventually he's hunted down, and John Foley looks to get himself over that and contest for that ball. But at UCC do manage to recycle, heading out towards Louis Bruce out on the wing, or it's Bohan who has popped up on the wing and carries out of the 22 into Young Munsters traffic. UCC have possession and looking to manage that possession very well in midfield. Out the back it goes to Taylor. Taylor popping back inside, and it was Bowen, the winger, who come off his wing to receive it. Into midfield it goes, and UCC slinging that ball around, but Young Munsters will want to get themselves on it, and Bohan picks it up, throws it out all the way out wide, and it looks like UCC have numbers, and the referee blows the whistle and says no, we're going to come back. Another forward pass from UCC. 35 minutes on the clock. 19 points to 7 is the score. Young Munsters with the feed just to the left of midfield, just inside the UCC half. It's been 15 minutes of UCC pressure after 20 minutes of Young Munsters dominance. And now the scrum looks to spin, and the Young Munsters look to be dominant, and they get the penalty. The last 3 scrums have very much been Young Munsters scrums. Cusack gets plenty out of that one. And the ball inside the UCC 22. And a prediction from the second all the way to the back, and it's John Foley who sets it up. At this time UCC do commit to the maul, and so Young Munsters will try to roll in from here. Foley took it really well, and he's recycled and rejoined the back of the maul now. O'Callaghan looking to marshal his troops. Kennedy, as Foley breaks off the back and goes to ground. O'Callaghan wants to get his hands on a UCC contesting very well. It's a one out pop pass and a really good carry from the back rows, and Young Munsters looking to recycle and go slowly but surely edging towards that UCC line. They're 5 metres out, and into midfield it goes. Luke Fitzgerald looking to spin out, or it's Harrington or Fleming, and Fleming got it over the line, and it was a double movement. UCC's attempted line out at the edge of their 22 goes very badly wrong, and Kennedy has stolen it, and Young Munsters look to attack from in midfield. And a lovely pass outside, Young Munsters looking to get down that right-hand channel. A lovely little thing through, and it's a foot race for the corner, and it's just bounced into touch with the try line begging. Very, very unfortunate for Young Munsters. Superb play with the kick out of hand, and that one was from Luke Fitzgerald. A superb little dink through. And UCC now, their line-out malfunctioning quite badly, will have to put in on the right-hand side, 5 metres from their own line. UCC with the put-in. Kennedy has spoiled 2 already. This one goes up, and it's just about taken back by UCC. They're at the edge of their own line, and it looks like they're under serious pressure from Young Munsters players trying to get their hands on that ball. UCC still have. Referee tells Young Munsters players to back off, and Louis Kahn puts his boot through it. High up it goes. Young Munsters have 2 players committing for it, and it's knocked on because of a lack of communication. 2 Young Munsters players went for that ball. Neither one of them got their hands on it. The ball is knocked on in the meantime, as UCC have the feed inside their own 22 on the right-hand side. Louis Kahn pops it in, and Young Munsters look to get the drive on. UCC wisely taking it out of the back before they go backwards. Big carry into midfield from Harry O'Riordan, and eventually UCC spring it and head out the back. It's Bohan looking to get outside his man, eventually hauled down by Fleming. Huge carry from Bohan. He's very capable of that. Louis Kahn looking to be caught in 2 minds. Young Munsters get all over him to tackle, but the ball is still on the UCC side, just outside their own 22 on this left-hand side. A little pick and go from the hooker, Tyg McCarthy. Back in towards the 22, Bohan spinning it into midfield. UCC have numbers on the outside. Hederman looking to break through. He's just about held down, or held back by Cusack, just about hauled down. And UCC take it up towards their own 10-metre line, making yards now at fairly easily at Young Munster's expense. Lovely pop pass from Brian again, the second row, and it's all the way out. Looks like UCC have numbers here, spinning it towards Bowen. Bowen steps back inside, heading towards the halfway line, and UCC really making yards now. Up to the halfway line, and they look like they're exposing Young Munsters with those mismatches. Back into midfield it goes, and Brian, who's had a cracking game from second row for UCC, into traffic. Young Munsters tackling well. They've looked to reorganise. McCarthy into midfield. Carrying is the big number 7 for UCC. Young Munsters organising, but they're losing yards every time. And eventually the ball skitters out the back. Young Munsters have turned it over, and it's hacked into touch, just about into touch. And so McCarthy will feed. He goes to the middle, taken off the top, and Louis Kahn spins into midfield for UCC. Another big, massive carry from Jack Kelleher. The number 7 has had a good game, but Young Munsters contain him just about at midfield. UCC carrying now with the one-out runners as Young Munsters look to contain them. Really superb rugby out of UCC in the last 20 minutes or so. Towards that right-hand touchline, they've gone coast to coast a couple of times and retained possession really well. And eventually there's a whistle blowing offside against Young Munsters. It'll be another penalty to UCC, which they take quickly. They're not interested in waiting around. And a knock-on in midfield, but it looks as though that's going to be a deliberate knock-on penalty against Young Munsters. Evan Cusack's hand coming out as he went to tackle.
UCC have exploded into life in the last 20 minutes then, when they've had the ball in hand, they've been very, very good to watch. We spoke about Niall Keneally last week, but Cian Bohan, much like Tynan and Cusack, has actually gone in as a second receiver, so he's helping Taylor out, and it's helping them get the ball into those wider channels.
That's the description. It's hanging on at the moment for Young Munsters. UCC really going coast to coast and finding mismatches and really attacking soft shoulders and getting yards. But their set piece has malfunctioned yet again, and the ball overthrown at the line-out means that Cusack picks it up and hoofs it all the way down clear. It's going to bounce into touch all the way over on the right-hand touchline. No, held up just outside the touchline. Young Munsters scrambling to get their hands on that and put it into touch. Young Munsters with players over the ball. They're claiming that they had hands on it, but the referee not interested. And so UCC recycle just outside their own 22, all the way back into their own corner, but they have attacked very well from here before. Bowen looking to step outside and managing to make another couple of yards before he's held down. They're on the left-hand channel now. They've moved from left all the way to right. Big carries. Again, this is from the back row. John Willis towards that left-hand touchline. Young Munsters tackling well and slowing the ball down this time. McCarthy, the hooker, takes it in midfield. Kahn back to Taylor. Taylor to Bohan. Bohan looking to come around the corner, but the pass is sloppy and it's popped up. And for Louis Bruce, Bruce manages with a lovely offload out on the right-hand side. Now, Munsters do have numbers to make the tackles count, but UCC really retaining ball very, very well. Taylor again, outside his own 22, looks for the break this time, and he's not held, which means he gets up and goes again a second time. Young Munsters do eventually haul him down. Popped into midfield, there's front rows and wingers popping into each other, and Bowen with a lovely offload to McCarthy. Once again, the winger to the front row. UCC making yards, heading towards their own 10-metre line. They've gone all the way from left to right and back again. In midfield this time round. Carries are good. Young Munsters defending really well. Taylor into the first centre, and this time around it's Ryan Murphy, the back row, who carries. Young Munsters managed to get the tackles on him. They're still inside their own half, just outside their own 22, UCC. Really retaining possession very, very well. Jack Kelleher with another big carry, the number 7. Louis Kahn gets to the base and whips it into midfield. Taylor all the way out to Cian Bohan. Bohan hauled to the ground by young Donnacha O'Callaghan. That's a great tackle from the smaller man on the bigger. Slow the ball down. UCC now, Young Munsters doubling up on carriers, looking to slow this ball down, and if they turn this one over, and well, they had turned it over, but the referee says it's hands on the ground from Young Munsters, and James Taylor is going to punt this one up the side touchline, taking it up towards the 10-metre line inside the Young Munsters half.
In the wide channels, UCC's players have really caused, regardless of the number on the back of the jersey, they've caused Young Munsters problems. Mark O'Mara in for Aaron Hennessy there.
And UCC really do take it off the top, and they start heading out towards that touchline again, spinning the ball, playing really, really well, fast and loose. That's a big tackle on the wing from Luke Fitzgerald, but it's just about offloaded before it goes to touching. So UCC have it around the 10-metre line, or 10-metre line inside Young Munsters' half, and managing to make yards again. These yards seem to be very easy for UCC in these last few minutes. Big carries in midfield from the back rows. Young Munsters having to double up again to try and contest and get over ball. Karen spins it out, Taylor, and it looks to be knocked on in midfield. Knocked back, says the referee, and Young Munsters have turned it over. And a big pop-up, Sean Rigney carries. Rigney off to Donnacha O'Callaghan. O'Callaghan managing to break through, but he's got no support. Young Munsters need to commit players, and it looks as though a real dive off the feet. And UCC furious with that off the feet play from Young Munsters. And after a half of two halves, we have come to the half-time mark. The score at half-time is Young Munsters 19, UCC 7. Kickoff is into Young Munsters' hands inside in the 22 over on the right-hand side. They're now playing away from the clubhouse up towards the far end of the pitch. Young Munsters recycling possession very well. Big carry. It looks like that was Begley. And O'Callaghan straight into midfield. Cusack all the way out to Kennedy. Kennedy rampaging forward, and 2 or 3 players once again can't stop him. Young Munsters make 10 yards. Cusack into midfield, and Hederman knocks it on, and it looked like that might have been a hint of a deliberate knock on. Scrum packs down. Donnacha O'Callaghan takes it at the back and pops it to Cusack. Cusack into midfield, and O'Gorman outside for Fitzgerald. Luke Fitzgerald puts his boot on it, and the ball is going to bounce heading towards that UCC corner, but it bounces awkwardly and back inside into the hands of Hederman. Hederman looking to carry out and manages to get away from one tackle, and then 2 eventually hauled down around the 10-metre line inside the UCC half. Had that ball bounced another way, it might have been a try, but it bounced conveniently for UCC, and eventually the ball is booted clear, and it goes all the way down to just outside the Young Munsters 22 on that right-hand side of the pitch. And that'll tell you the kind of game that we're having. It's down one end 1 minute, and then up the other end the next.
Well, if retention was the order of the day in the first half, ball retention, Dan, it's certainly territory in the first 2 minutes of the second half. Luke Fitzgerald with a lovely little read there. Louis Bruce at full back coming into the line, so he played it in behind. If he gets a bounce, Young Munsters will be putting pressure on the UCC lineup. But contrary to that, UCC get the ball, and Taylor with a lovely little kick in behind. So Young Munsters with a line out just outside their 22.
And so we are 2.5 minutes into the second half, and the score 19 points to 7. Young Munsters lead 3 tries to 1. And Young Munsters take well at that line out and look to spin it out onto the blind side, but it's tackled edge of their own 22 and carrying well but very slow. Kennedy into traffic again. UCC players on the wrong side, the referee ignoring it. Donnacha O'Callaghan to the base and outside to Cusack. Cusack throws it deep for Tynan. Alan Tynan puts his boot on it. He sees a bit of a gap behind the UCC defensive line. The ball bouncing really, really well, heading for touch, but Hederman just about keeps it in play just inside the UCC half. Hederman looking to return it. He's just about hauled down by Harry Fleming. And UCC looking to go out on the right-hand side. Cian Bohan manages to get his hands on the Young Munsters, have a player over that ball and holding on to it. And the referee blows the whistle and says, yes, Young Munsters did contest that. UCC held on, and so the penalty out on that left-hand touchline.
Yeah.
Evan Cusack puts his boot through it. It'll be a line out to Young Munsters. Mark O'Mara for Young Munsters. The substitute comes in and he throws awkwardly, and it's turned over by UCC. Stolen in the line out about halfway through. The jumper was at the back, but the throw only went to the middle. UCC were ready for it, and so they have possession at their own 10-metre line inside their own half, looking to carry out. Young Munsters smothering them with tackles and looking to try to turn that ball back over again, but UCC are so quick with this, and it's a breakaway down on that right-hand side. There's options showing left and right, but he doesn't need all the options. He's going to sprint all the way as it Hederman, who's going to finish for the try underneath the posts, breaking through 2 tackles, and it's a superb touchdown. It's not Hederman, it's Matthew Bowen, the winger. He's had a cracking game for UCC so far. He runs in under the post, breaking 2 tackles and touching down just in front of the clubhouse end. Ball is kicked off into the UCC half and eventually retained by Young Munsters really well. And now they attack into the midfield. UCC's drift defence getting out to the line and managing to hold Young Munsters down. O'Callaghan takes it from the back and a big carry into midfield. That was Harrington. Young Munsters recycling ball really well, and John Foley goes straight at the UCC line. He's eventually hauled down. Young Munsters are making yards, but they're not quick yards. O'Callaghan and Worthington back into midfield, and Young Munster spinning it out the line, and that's Begley. He finds Luke Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald stepping back inside of his man. UCC scrambling to get defenders there. Young Munsters will want support players. They just about get them there. Another big carry. This one from Coulter, not Rigney. The red scrum cap won't confuse me this time. And so O'Callaghan to the back, pops it out for Cusack. Cusack for Alan Kennedy. Kennedy, just two men waiting for him, but he just about manages to recycle ball. Cusack into midfield. Young Munsters carrying Harry Fleming up towards the line. And again, UCC have organised very well. Moving from left to right now, back into midfield again. Donnacha O'Callaghan's at the bottom and manages to spin it out. Worthington with a big carry and managing to break away from his man and get over that gain line. UCC will have to reorganise. O'Callaghan goes right this time. An offside decision this time round. The option is to kick, and Evan Cusack will surely fancy this directly in front of the sticks. From Taylor into the hands of Rigney. Young Munsters set up inside their own 22 on that right-hand side in front. Alan Kennedy goes on a rampage and sits down 3 UCC defenders and breaks again. And Keelan Bohan has to step in and haul him. 10 yards made from Kennedy. He's been outstanding. Cusack into Evan O'Gorman. O'Gorman hauled down, but after him he makes 2 or 3 yards. Really good play out of Young Munsters. Moving back into midfield. And it's Cusack. Cusack spinning a long ball outside. Rigney to Harrington. Harrington trying to step his man, but he's knocked just onto the ground, just out the touch line on the right-hand side, around the 10-metre line inside Young Munsters' half. Carry is to make a yard or 2, and slow ball coming back for Young Munsters. It looks like there's plenty of UCC defenders. Young Munsters quite narrow. Cusack back into Harrington. Harrington into O'Gorman. O'Gorman steps inside his man, and it's a lovely offload for Tynan. Tynan goes back inside for O'Callaghan. O'Callaghan heading towards that line. Will he be caught? He's going to go all the way and score, and he has scored for Young Munsters. O'Callaghan with a superb try all the way through. An offload from Tynan made it, and O'Callaghan goes all the way to the scoreline, all the way to the touchline. Superb try from the scrum half. What an offload from Tynan. And Evan Cusack adds the extras. For all the dominance UCC have had, to only have 14 points on the board, and Young Munsters have 29, it really, that's the ability to convert seems to be the difference between the two sides. Kicked off into Young Munsters' half. Worthington with another big carry and making a yard or 2 in the contact. O'Callaghan back to Cusack. Cusack to Tynan, and Tynan puts his boot onto it and tries to put it behind Hederman. Ball bouncing awkwardly, and it looks like a block in midfield, but the referee hasn't given it. And a step inside from UCC. They have options left and right, and the ball looks to have been knocked on by UCC with the try line begging. And eventually Luke Fitz puts his boot on it, but it's not going to find touch, and so UCC have options now. The referee says no advantage, so we'll come back from the knock on. Ball fed into the scrum. And Young Munster's scrum gets a shove on. And if that Colm Skehan's first scrum since coming back, it's a penalty to Young Munsters. That big drive from the front row manages to earn a penalty for Young Munsters. And Cusack has given it to Tynan and told Alan Tynan, put your boot on this. So rather than Cusack, it's the fullback who kicks it and takes us up to the halfway line on this left-hand side in front of our commentary position.
Just a word on Colm Skehan there, Dan, as you alluded to, 23 months out with a crucial injury, but testament to him, and a word on Rob Cassidy as well, the S&C for Young Munsters. They've worked tirelessly to get back in, and he certainly enjoyed that penalty in his first run back.
Young Munsters just about returning their own possession, the line out after a good contest from UCC. O'Callaghan did very well to snaffle that ball up, and Huw Worthington, the number 8, outstanding again as he is, carrying really well, and a lovely offload to Kennedy. Alan Kennedy rampaging down the left hand side. The offload is to Luke Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald is going to sprint all the way towards the corner, stepping back inside and just hold short, shy of the line by about 5 metres. Young Munsters have possession still, looking to get support players in. Kennedy acting at scrum half, he pops it up. Young Munster still 5 metres out. They're doing really, really well. UCC did well to scramble and get that one back, and it looks to have been knocked on by Begley, but about 10 metres out from the UCC line. It hasn't been knocked on, and UCC will have the scrum 10 metres from their own line, 20 metres in from the left-hand touchline. They'll be looking to break out. The referee says free kick UCC. Young Munster's putting their shove on a little bit early, and UCC will be happy enough to take that and try to attack from deep. They've shown their ability to do that. Louis Kahn taps it quickly, and UCC start to carry, heading towards their own 22 and trying to make a break out. Bohan, lovely step, and manages to break through a tackle. He hares towards the halfway line. He's just about hauled down. Superb carry from Bohan, and UCC have it, looking to move back inside, and they're kind of caught in two minds, and eventually the ball is kicked over the top, and it's going to bounce not into touch. Luke Fitzgerald collects it on the left-hand flank, and now it's Alan Tynan. Tynan stepping back inside his man and looking to carry for Young Munsters. They'll need black and amber support. It's very slow getting there, but they do get ball back eventually. Carrying now in midfield, it's Huw Worthington again. The number 8 has been huge for Young Munsters. Into midfield, Cusack. And out to John Foley. Foley carrying, and UCC this time defending well, and it's slow ball for Young Munsters. Cusack throwing a big wide pass, and it's all the way out to Harrington, but the referee says that is a forward pass from Cusack out to Harrington, who was on the wing. The UCC scrum half has had a good game. He will feed. Young Munster's scrum has been probably the better scrum, and they get a big shove, and that ball spinning around. The referee blows the whistle. It's a penalty to Young Munsters, and really that front row has been dominant for most of the game. But Colm Skehan has added some of his technical know-how, and Young Munsters turn that over by winning a penalty against the head against UCC's front row, and that seems to have been the story of the second half for Young Munster's scrum. The shove was huge, and UCC buckled under the pressure. Mark O'Mara will have the put in for Young Munsters. And UCC do very well to steal that ball. It's heading towards Kennedy with a hand up and just about knocked down on the UCC side. And so they have turned over possession, but Young Munsters turn it over back again. And Kennedy into midfield. John Foley swinging it out for Harrington. Harrington to O'Gorman. Evan O'Gorman looking to step back inside his man with the handoff. Young Munsters slow getting ball back, but eventually it does come back, and Alan Kennedy carries. Tackled and hauled down with a yard made. To the back it goes again. Young Munster spreading into midfield. Cusack, carry from Fitzgerald, who's off his wing into traffic. UCC spreading out wide to manage to defend. Young Munsters keeping it narrow. They're directly in front of the posts, just inside the UCC 22. Slow coming back, but eventually it goes to the hands of Rigney. Rigney carries heavy and makes 2 or 3 yards, and the referee has blown the whistle. It's a knock-on from Rigney. So restart will be the scrum, and Young Munster's scrum driving straight at the UCC play, and the ball skitters out the back. UCC are going to have to collect this. I think they've collected it over their own line. Young Munsters maul them back over their own line, and that means Young Munsters will have to put into the scrum 5 metres from the UCC line. And as the story of the scrums has been Young Munster's dominance, and in that put in, so ball into the back, and Young Munster's drive is good. It's contained at the back. UCC start to spin, And the ball is all the way out and eventually touched down. As we suspected, they've driven over the line and touched it down at the back. And I think it's Huw Worthington who's managed to touch it down. The number 8 kept the ball at his feet. And quite as we suspected, young Munsters drive it over the line. That scrum has been outstanding for them. Evan Cusack looking to add the extras 10 metres in from the right-hand touchline.
Danny Coulter's day done there, Dan, and special mention Craig O'Hanlon coming in 2 days short of his 30th birthday, putting to bed rumours he's actually already 35.
Well, a kick from out on the right-hand side by Evan Cusack is a superb kick. 36-14 is not the story of this game by any stretch of the imagination.
No, it's not. UCC have been here before, Dan. I suspect they're going to be playing French running rugby for the next 13 minutes because they've got nothing to lose.
Kick off from Taylor into young Munster's half, tipped back by Cian Bohan, so UCC returned possession inside the young Munster's half and managing to ship the ball left and right, looking for angles where young Munsters are drifting and soft shoulders. Into midfield again, another carry from Cian Bohan. He's been outstanding, but it's ripped from young Munsters in contact. And a lovely kick through from Fleming. Well, it's not a lovely kick through, it's actually a manky kick through, but it does make it. And it bounces inside in the UCC half. Lovely stepping and play from UCC, managing to make a yard or two from broken field play. And Bohan has his hands on it again, looking to go at the line. Excuse me, that was the replacement front row, not Cian Bohan. Young Munster's managing to get over the ball in the tackle. But UCC just about returning possession. Through the gate, UCC go. Young Munster's waiting for them. In between the 10-metre line and the 22 inside young Munster's half. Right in the middle of the pitch. Referee has the handout for advantage to UCC. 36 points to 14 is the score. Young Munster's penalised for offside.
Fourth offside penalty, then no matter what the score, you're going to be disappointed with that from a defensive point of view.
Quick tap penalty taken and a big clear out from UCC. At the edge of the 22 now, UCC still have possession into midfield, looking to crash at the young Munsters line. John Foley. UCC still have it, right at the edge of the 22. Khan back out to his first centre. Young Munsters moving to snaffle that one up and look to rip it, and they have ripped it. Really well turned over. Harrington taking the correction. Fleming taking it out by one phase. John Foley acting as scrum half. Now Kennedy shipping it to Tynan all the way outside, and young Munsters look to be moving it to the right-hand side. Have they got numbers? It's out to Harrington up towards the halfway line. Young Munsters have it on that right-hand flank. The rip was really good, and the ball dinked over the top. There's a chase on the right-hand flank, but the ball bounces into touch. There was a time shortly into the start of the second half when it looked as though UCC might be able to poach this game. I mean, only 5 points down and playing great rugby, and suddenly we've ended up in a place where it's 36 points to 14, and young Munsters now, for a crooked throw, young Munsters have the option of a scrum just in between the 10 and the 22 inside UCC's half, and it all just seems to have collapsed for UCC, despite the fact that they've been playing some outstanding rugby.
Yeah, well, look, you can play all the rugby you want then, but as we said, the set piece, if your line-out and scrum don't function, it's going to be problematic for you. The referee has been consistent in his calls with penalty tries. UCC have played very, very good rugby, but mistakes in areas in the pitch, when they look back in the video, will have cost them dearly. Young Munsters fans were certainly holding their breath.
Young Munsters putting to the scrum. And that scrum has been dominant. A penalty try and a pushover try in a scrum shows how dominant. But eventually it comes out the back instead, and it's Cusack, and Cusack hit heavy. And the ball has come off the head of the UCC player who tackled, and so it's not a knock-on. Young Munsters have to collect all the way back at the 10-metre line, and in fact young Munsters are penalised from holding on the ground at the 10-metre line inside in UCC's half, and suddenly an attacking opportunity turns into a UCC opportunity to attack at young Munsters. UCC's line-out goes to the tail, and in fact picked off by Mark O'Mara, symptomatic of UCC's problems at the set piece. Young Munsters turn it over, and a lovely little dink over the top because there's nobody at home for UCC. Eventually collected back at the edge of their own 22, and they'll attempt to run it out against young Munsters, trying to generate scores from nowhere inside their own half. Young Munsters will be happy to ping them back into those corners. And UCC carry up towards the 10-metre line inside their own half. There's a black and amber wall waiting for them. Carries are one out into traffic. Young Munsters bring them down. Ruck again. Into midfield it goes. UCC looking to step back inside, but plenty of black and amber jerseys. Huge clear out. Perfectly legal from UCC. And Young Munsters, it's still very, very physical game, despite the lateness of it. UCC looking for runners inside and out. Young Munsters stopping them at the gain line. Still just at around the halfway line. And Young Munster's doing very well to contain, but UCC were doing very well to retain possession. They head towards the touchline again, where they've had the most joy. Munsters are winning. Big tackle on that left-hand side. Slow ball for UCC, and now it looks like they might have numbers, but the pass has gone back behind the man, and Young Munsters rush at it to try to snaffle it up. Slow possession. The gate is open and UCC come charging through, looking to make some yards, taking it up towards the halfway line. Really good carry from them. And then once again, when the gate is open, Young Munsters not containing it, and UCC makes some yards into the Young Munsters half now. On that left-hand side, throw into midfield. Really well contained. Big tackle from Alan Kennedy. Huge tackle. And the ball bounces backwards, but UCC managed to retain it. Just inside their own half again because of Alan Kennedy's big shot tackle. And into midfield. Spinning it all the way out onto the wing. It looks like they might have numbers. UCC looking to use the touchline, but Young Munsters have scrambled all the way over. And they try to bundle the man into touch. It's just short. So just inside the UCC half on that right-hand side. You know, UCC really spinning the ball around, looking for runners. It looks very attractive, but they're not making huge amounts of yards for all the possession and the retention. Big tackle in midfield now, in the middle of the park. Still UCC's possession. All the way out onto this right-hand side. They've gone coast to coast yet again, but they haven't made a yard for all of that. And Young Munsters managed to get over the ball. Referee blows the whistle and says that's a penalty for holding on. So now Young Munsters turn it over. The line out is taken, into the middle it goes. And the maul is set up at the edge of the UCC 22. Just on that left-hand flank in front of our clubhouse, far end of the pitch. Maul possession, still Young Munsters, and they're still rolling it and still moving it and still managing to hold on to that possession. The breakaway, it fractures a little bit and it's gone to ground. The Young Munsters have the ball at the back. They have. Lovely little pop inside. It's about 20 metres in from the left-hand touchline. Young Munsters possession. They're about 5 metres short of the UCC line, looking for another score, and it's going to be one out carries. Heavy into traffic. UCC have managed to stack up that defence on the narrow side, looking to prevent Young Munsters from making those snipes around the fringes. Young Munsters have options outside, and they spin it all the way outside to Luke Fitzgerald, and Luke Fitzgerald dives into the corner, and another try for Young Munsters will take the score to 41 points. Luke Fitzgerald's touchdown in the corner, 41-14 now, and Young Munsters have been absolutely clinical inside in that UCC 22.
Young Munster will be very, very happy with their attacking play in general, and Young Munster is probably just doing a little bit of experimenting at the moment. Cusack has gone to 15 with Tynan at 10. Harry Fleming's race is run as well, and Harry's had a very, very good game as well in place of the injured Paraline.
So Young Munsters, as we say, the bench being emptied and players coming in and out. We have surely no more than minutes left in this, according to our clock. 1 minute left in this, which, according to the referee's clock, might be 4 or 5 minutes. But the kick off the touchline, on the left-hand touchline, from a left-footed kicker is a superb kick. And that's Alan Tynan has managed to add on the extras. An outstanding kick all the way out from the left-hand touchline. 43-14 now the score. And the attempted tip on from Bowen goes into the hands of a Young Munsters player, and so Young Munsters have it at the 10-metre line inside their own half on that right-hand side. UCC contesting that on the ground. It looks like they've got over it, and they have managed to get over it and turn that ball over. And UCC have a penalty at the 10-metre line on the right-hand side as we're looking at it from the clubhouse. And penalty for them, surely, I mean, with a minute left to go, 43 points to 14 down. Throws to the front. Young Munsters don't contest any more, and Kingston manages to return possession, but he's right on that touchline. Young Munsters narrow as they look to contain this. UCC pop out once. Young Munster's doing well to defend, and UCC have to commit players a runner from deep, and instead they spread it out wide. A lovely step back inside. There's 2 or 3 Young Munster's players, and it's knocked on as UCC. No, the referee says knocked back. UCC retained possession. That was surely a knock on, and it goes into midfield. Bohan carrying heavy. Young Munsters hold him out. 5 metres out from the Young Munsters line to the right hand side of the goal post, and the referee blows the whistle and says that's a penalty against Young Munsters for hands in the ruck. And so the quick tap penalty, 5 metres out. Big carries towards the Young Munsters post. They're directly in front of the Young Munsters goals, spinning it out towards the backs, looking to carry into traffic. Bohan taken. And Young Munsters have players looking to defend in numbers. Kingston carries, absolutely hammered into the tackle by John Foley. Young Munsters still defending the narrow fringes. Big tackle. Skehan looking to get over that ball and compete for it, but he can't do it. UCC return it, heading back into midfield. Pass looks a little wayward, but UCC still have. Young Munsters waiting. That's a big hit, a huge hit. UCC have it. It'll be their feed. Louis Kahn has come out, and it's a free kick to UCC because Young Munsters drove early and they managed to spin it all the way out onto that left-hand touchline, and it looks like there's going to be a try here for UCC, and the referee says forward pass against UCC. They will not get the benefit of the try, and that's all there is to this game. The referee blows it up full time.